The 2 Cent Report!
And hello to all the people of the internet. This is the 2 Cent Report. Hasn't been here for a while, because we have a ravenous audience that is hanging on our every word. But yes, we did die briefly for 2 months. So, as per usual, there is me, 1 Cent Justin, and as per usual, as always, the immaculate, the wonderful, the absolutely gorgeous, well-endowed person who will introduce himself.
Back from the dead. 1 Cent Tristan reporting for duty. Well endowed. I like that. Thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. I mean, I don't know for sure, but you can show me later, and then I'll be able to verify. Yeah. Should be fun.
It's cold right now. Can you wait until summer?
It's cold. Yeah. It's fucking hot
here. I'm on the coast. I've got sea breeze and overcast weather.
Okay, well, actually, this is an important little note because it's fucking hot here. So, the aircon is on because I'm dying. So, I can see even when there's silence, there's noise on my audio. So hopefully the noise cancellation gets rid of that. But if it doesn't, fuck you. I'm sorry. I'm hot. Leave me alone. So, yeah.
No, that's
my heat rant.
That's fine. But seeing as we have now gone into your heat rant, let's just take a few steps back and remember what this podcast is about. So I have, as you guys know, I have a tendency to not look at the content sheet before we do these things. I'm hoping that we meet our criteria for you, especially since we've been gone for so long. But we will have to see. The next thing is, should we move on to what we were up to in this last 2 months? Because we both technically have some exciting news for all 3 of our subscribers.
Yes, although with mine, I'm still in the process of doing things. So I think I can mention some things, but I won't mention any names yet. So, but you can go first because you have more of substance. I think by the time we do our next podcast, I think mine will be of more substance. So,
right.
Go for it, my well-endowed friend.
It just reminds me of that Blazing Saddles joke, you know. I thought you were hung, and they were right. Anyway.
You know, I do actually have a question about the well-hung thing as an expression, because there isn't a bad hung. Like, then you'll just be like, oh no, he's just small. But you don't have a reverse of the term hung. It's just well hung, and there isn't an opposite euphemism.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, no, fair enough. I'm not going to invent one now.
But anyway, please, yeah, not now. But we'll brainstorm. As we know, this is a linguistic podcast, so yeah, we're going to brainstorm on the etymology of a new term to describe a small penis. But in the meantime, you can talk about your thing, Tristan.
All right. So, from my side, I've been playing some games. You know, still playing Battlefield. Still questioning why DICE and EA decided not to put 1, an anti-cheat, and 2, no team balancing system in there. But you know, those things happen. You know, it is DICE and EA we're talking about here, so nothing I can do about that. I have been on and off of Skyrim. I've stopped playing Skyrim because Skyrim did an update and SKSE had not done an update, so I can't run Skyrim with all my beautiful mods until they do an update. I'm pretty sure it's out now. I need to go check. And yeah, I downloaded Cyberpunk, doing another playthrough because of the big announcement for the expansion DLC. So looking forward to that. Oh yeah, and just happened to register a company, a gaming studio, and make it official that I'm working on a game. Just something small, you know, just on the side while I do all the other things like game and masturbate.
Okay, so let's ignore the boring part. Tell me about the Skyrim. Tell me about still playing an 11-year-old game religiously. And okay, fine. You can also talk about the company.
I mean, like, it's hereditary. My dad has been playing Skyrim since Skyrim came out. To this day, he still plays Skyrim.
Just by the way, hereditary means inherited from your
Yes.
parents. So was he playing it before you were born?
I think I think it was a set in stone, like fate itself dictated that he would play it until the end of time, and so it passed that gene down to me to play it until the end of time.
Okay, no, it's fine then. It's fine.
Yeah, and to move on from there, because I could talk about Skyrim all day. Yeah, so finally registered the company. Finally got the studio. We are now officially Nerd Hazard Entertainment. If you guys want to take a look at it, we do have a website. The link will be down below, as well as we have a Twitter account, and I'll do all the plugging for everything at the end of the video. But basically, I have a turn-based tabletop grand strategy game. Similar, if you took something like it also involves cards. So if you took something like Hearthstone, Risk, and Civilizations, and you kind of merge them all together, that's the kind of game I'm making. I've been working as a solo dev on it for a while, and I thought it was time to open it up to, not open up to the public, but let the public know that I am working on this game. And we do often on Twitter post snippets of things I've worked on or things I've currently finished for the game. And yeah, just finally have something to plug. And that's basically taken all my time. It's the reason why I've been too busy to do anything. Also, if you're not a South African, I also have been struggling with load shedding because I do not have an oops. So I still need to obey the laws of no power and not work during load shedding. But other than that, my time is basically between work and this new venture I've set forth out upon or into. And yeah, that's basically it from me. Like I said, I will do more plugging at the end. And if you would like to see or know more, the plug should have a lot more for you. I'll hand it over to the less endowed but still well endowed 1 cent Justin.
Yes. I'm the most endowed.
Human horn, yes, we know.
Yes.
Know human horn is particularly large in your case.
Yes. Well, I mean, I have other things that are big. So I have also been working on company stuff, but it's not finished. So that will still come later. But I think I am fine with saying that I will be starting my own, basically indie publisher, not for games though. So it's not really as well suited to this particular podcast as yours. I think I need to start a literature podcast next. Too bad I don't know anyone who does literature. Anyway, but yes, so an indie press kind of thing to do my own books and possibly in future others, but I don't know yet. I'm starting with myself. So yes, I'm going to be publishing my first book. It's really short though, actually. I decided to do a short one first. So I will be publishing things probably every few months, probably more than once a year. I'll be publishing a book. So that should be fun. It should be fun, but I don't want to give any actual details about specifics yet because everything is still in the legal phases. You shouldn't say the names of things until everything is through. So yeah, that will come. But in other news, because that will come later, probably in the next podcast, that might all be actually out there and stuff. But in the meantime, Tristan, would you like to know about new games that did not come out in 2011 that I have reviewed?
Yes, I would love to see this. It's just for the reviews that you do for your two what are they called? They're not magazines, are they? No, they're blogs, aren't they?
I mean, I don't know. I suppose you would call it a blog nowadays. It's difficult because I've worked for one that called itself an online magazine, and I've worked for one that called itself a blog, and they were effectively the same thing.
Okay, so your online magazine blog, is it for them?
Yeah. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Then let's go for it.
Yeah, I've done a lot. I think I'm only gonna talk about the ones that are actually I'll briefly mention the ones that are shit, which were quite a few. So there was one a Souls like that was just not good. called Tarnishing of Yuxtia, which was very disappointing. And then another game which called The Tenants, where you get to play as the worst kind of human filth. You play as a landlord. So, yeah, I didn't actually want to play that game. I saw the name and I was like, I don't want to play a game where I'm a landlord. And then I was asked to review it. So, I didn't like it. But then, actually a great little game called Like No Other, The Legend of the Twin Books. It's basically like... it's a point and click, but it's like the old school style, if you remember things like Putt-Putt, where it's not necessarily for kids, but it's made in a very sort of like, very cartoony style. Definitely something I could imagine being installed on a primary school computer at a school. Also, because first off, it was wonderful because I finished it, I wrote the review, and only after finishing it did he ask if I could also, seeing as it's quite a short game, could I also do a full playthrough video? And I was like, okay, fine. And
is it,
turns out when you know exactly...
Sorry, you said it's like Putt-Putt, but is it more along the lines like Monkey Island, or definitely more like the absolute cartoony style of Putt-Putt?
Yeah, I meant the cartoony sort of style, the kid-friendliness of something like Putt-Putt. And like you can't die, you know. Well, I mean, I suppose you can die, but then you just immediately restart. It's very chill. But then, because if you know what to do, I effectively speed ran it and finished the entire game in 29 minutes. So it's not long, but it was very cute and cute little thing. And then actually the most recent game I did was another Souls-like that's not great, called Moon Scars. It was fine. But those are the less interesting ones. So, time for the interesting ones. The first one I kind of got obsessed with. It was halfway through last month, called Thymesia. It's a Souls-like, but a good one. It is different. It's more like Bloodborne than Dark Souls. Very fast. There's no block. There is technically a block, but even when you fully upgrade your block, it doesn't stop all damage. So what's the point? So it's very sort of fast-based. You got to dodge out of the way a lot.
Okay,
it's exactly the way
Sekiro, where it's more dexterity-based Souls than Souls.
Yes,
Souls and Elden Ring both give you the option to be dexterity-based playstyle, but these games not so much. They kind of want you to go for that.
Yeah. Yes, a lot of people compare it to Sekiro because it does have a strong parry orientation, which Sekiro was like a big parry-oriented game. However, I fucking hate parrying in Souls games, so I didn't do any parrying. So to me, it was more like Bloodborne. It's just dodging around and stuff like that. It has an interesting mechanic, though, where enemies have 2 health bars, where like the 1 health bar is kind of like an armor that regenerates, and then you have to hit them with another attack, like a special attack, to fully take out the damage. Takes a bit of getting used to. In the beginning, it does not really explain itself very well, but
yeah, I think you told
I ended
me
up getting
about this.
obsessed.
You
yes,
you actually had to really figure it out like halfway through the game.
Yes, but then once I figured out how to play it properly, and then turned out I was playing on the wrong version. I did not see the additional instructions to go to the latest build, so I was actually playing an 8-month-old build of it. So that wasn't great. So I finished it on the old build, and then I got the new build, and because it was such a big update, it wiped out my save, so I finished it twice. And I was also asked to record all the bosses so they could do videos of them. And there's a really hilarious comment on the final boss, that video, where someone commented saying it's an impossible boss in a video where I beat the boss. So that was fun. But yes, it was really fun. And I kind of got a little bit too obsessed with it, and I played like 25 hours. So, yes. And if you're playing like well, you can probably finish it in like 8 hours, 8 to 12 hours. So yes, I really liked it. It was good. It was good, and I gave it a very high score.
No, that's that's
Then,
fantastic. I'm glad you found a Souls like that you enjoyed, considering that the not so great stuff was quite a few Souls likes inside there.
yes, I think also because so this one was a 3D Souls like, the other ones are 2D Souls likes, and the thing with the 2D ones, I think dodging doesn't work as nicely in a 2D environment than it does in a 3D one, because you can only dodge forward and back, or left and right rather. Whereas in a 3D environment, you can dodge in any direction. So it just has a much smoother kind of combat to it. And the one I played most recently, the Moon Scars one, reminded me a lot of Blasphemous, which is a really, really good 2D Souls-like. But it's just not as good as Blasphemous. It's like a not as good version of Blasphemous. I would just recommend playing Blasphemous instead. It's better and darker, and it has a lot of Christian iconography in it. It does not call it Christian, but it is. But like the really dark stuff, not like crosses and stuff, more like the, everything has thorns wrapped around it, and like everything is sad, depressing, and there's blood everywhere, and there's baptisms, and all sorts of dark stuff. That was a great game. That was also the first game I ever got paid to review. So, I like Blasphemous. It's good. It's good. However, I played 3 other games.
Like when I went to Sunday school.
Yeah, exactly. It was fun. You got wrapped in thorns to remind you of what it's like for Christ. So, I'm gonna talk about these out of order, because the last one I want to talk about is actually the third latest game I reviewed, and there's something funny about it. So, first, a game called Gerda, A Flame in Winter, which I am certain, I have not looked, but I have a feeling that if any Americans reviewed it, they called it Gerda. But she's Danish, it would not be Gerda. Gerda is not a name. Anyway.
It is. It's the name of those metal support structure beam things that they use to build skyscrapers.
Different spelling, but very true. But Gerda is it's actually really interesting because it takes place, it's a World War II game, but where you play as a Danish civilian in a small Danish border town. So the population is half Danish, half German. And so it's this sort of, you're just a civilian. You're not going to really be able to do anything. So you work with the resistance to try to sort of help the town, but you have to sort of navigate things. Like, you can't piss off the occupation too much because they're the Nazis, and if you piss them off too much, they could do things to you. And so you got to figure out how to sort of juggle all of these relationships. The only problem I really have with it, in terms of this relationship mechanic, which I like, is that sometimes you can't lie, which is really useful when, for instance, talking to Nazis, where, you might play along with a Nazi to get him on your side, but obviously he's not on your side, you're just playing along. But even though you're alone in an office, somehow the resistance knows about you being sympathetic with them, telepathically. So that's really my only issue with it, that you can't really lie very well. Like, sometimes it remembers to let you lie, and sometimes it doesn't. So, yeah. But it's a very interesting thing, and you don't get that many, other than, like, This War of Mine, you don't get many war games about civilians. It's always about soldiers. So, that was cool. And also, I don't think I've ever seen a game set in a Danish village in World War II. Like, that's not really a setting you see very often. So, it was nice. And then, Beacon Pines. Beacon Pines might be one of my favorite games ever. It probably does have a bit to do with the fact that, it has anthropomorphic animal characters in it. So, yeah. That's me, though, so it's fine. But it actually is a very interesting little thing. It's basically a point and click, but with, like, mostly about relationships with other characters. However, it plays with time. So you get to a certain point where, first of all, the game looks like a kid's game. But then, even though it looks like a kid's game, there's like kind of horrific child murder in it because you're a child, and various endings end with you dying. So it's kind of brutal in that sense. But basically you get to a point where you fuck up and then you're like, okay, I need to figure out another way to do this. So you go back in time somewhere else and try it again until you can get the right stuff to then go back to that, the one where you died, and hopefully then survive it. So it's quite an interesting little thing. It's cute and it's also creepy. It's kind of like a mix of, Night in the Woods with like Twin Peaks. That's actually probably not a good example because Night in the Woods was inspired by Twin Peaks, so probably not the best example. But yes, if you like Night in the Woods, you'll probably like this. So it's fun. And then the last one, and Tristan, you're going to find this funny. Not the game itself, but what happened with the game.
Mm-hmm. I'm listening.
So the game called Sunday Gold, which I really enjoyed. It's sort of a mix of point and click and turn-based sort of RPG, which is not really a combination you often see. You play as 3 different criminals in a dystopian London setting, where also they're very low-class sort of British people, so they all have like Cockney accents and stuff, like very thick accents, which is fun. Now, some people seem to think that it was like Disco Elysium, but then it's nothing like Disco Elysium. Like, Disco Elysium is very dialogue-oriented, and there's like no dialogue system in this game, so it's not. But basically, you have to break into places. The longer you're there, the more likely it is that security is onto you and tries to get you. And you're not just breaking into like houses, you're breaking into like facilities, trying to like steal stuff for corporate espionage reasons. But it's really great, and it's very dark. It's very dark. It doesn't pull any punches, anything like that. Now, it was supposed to come out, and the embargo was for a specific day, and we posted it on the embargo day, and we're like, cool. And then later that day, they announced that they're postponing it for a month. So it hasn't actually come out yet, but the embargo is lifted. Like, the review was out when they announced that they were postponing it, which I don't think is a good idea, because the game's also working. It's fine. It's fixed. There's nothing wrong with it. And I have a feeling I know why it was postponed.
Oh, yes?
And this is what's funny.
Yes, let's hear it.
So, it's about a bunch of British thugs going against sort of conglomerates and sort of modern aristocracy. And it was supposed to come out a few days after this very famous, very old imperialist died in England. And I have a feeling they were like, oh shit, the Queen died. We can't post our game about hating the rich.
Oh,
stealing from them
great.
like 3 days after she died.
That is great. Yes. Okay. Fair. Respect to them. Fair enough.
So that's my theory. They did not state why. So, yes. I just found that really funny. But yeah, it was good. It was good. So yeah, those are the games I've played recently. But then the most recent game I've actually played has not been for review because I took this week off from studying, from doing research, because I needed a break. I've read too much. I'm almost done with my research, but I needed a fucking break. So I bought Hades at last, and it is fucking good. Hades is really good.
Oh, really?
The fact that it won, like,
I wouldn't have been able to tell. It's
yeah,
not
I know.
Like it was like covered in awards or anything on Steam.
No, I know. It's a very obscure game. Not many people have heard of it. It's surprisingly good. Like, you would think some small indie studio. They made a couple hits back in the day, but Yeah. But no, it's really good. It's really good. But then because it's a roguelike, where you're supposed to replay it over and over and over and over and over again, turned out you have to beat the last boss like 10 times to finish the main story. And I played 20 hours, beat the boss twice, and reached him like another 4 times, and then reached the area right before him like a further 4 or 5 times. And so I kind of was like, I think I've had my fill. So I just watched the ending on YouTube because I was like, I don't want to fucking play anymore. It's really good, but I played 20 hours in like 5 days. So I think I'm gonna be finished now. But it is really, really good, even though I stopped playing.
Well, you're hoping to be done now.
No, I tried to play again for like 10 minutes and I was like, yeah, I'm done. I played enough. Because it's the same 4 levels in a row with the same 4 bosses. The bosses have mild changes, but not really. It'll be like a different move set, but it's ultimately the same boss. So, yeah, it's just the exact same thing 4 times in a row. And it's like BPM is also a roguelike, but it's faster to finish a run of BPM. Whereas a run of Hades is probably like 40 minutes to an hour, whereas a run of BPM is like 30 minutes. So, yeah, it's more investment every time you run. So, I just decided, I think I've had my fill. It's really good. I think I got my money's worth. I really enjoyed it. If I was reviewing it, this would probably be the game of the year. I'd probably give this like a 10 out of 10. It's fucking amazing. But, yeah. So it's good. And that's it. That is what I have played.
From start to finish. Well done.
Yes. Thank you. I feel very happy with myself now.
Obviously,
Alright, so that was our show. Goodbye, Tristan. I will see you.
No, yeah. I obviously haven't had that much exposure to games. Yeah. Seriously, what I've actually been doing is I downloaded Tailspire, which is a tabletop simulator that I use for D&D now, off of Steam. Really nice application. I really like it. It's still in early access development, so there are some things I would like them to have, like particularly a character sheet. They did say that they were going to include one. They're just thinking of the best way to do it. So that's my only real gripe for that. But yeah, I like Tailspire quite a bit. Other than that, yeah, you pretty much know what games I've been playing. Not okay. I don't do it as a living, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really fair. I've never played new games. Like, I have bought a handful of games when they came out, like a handful, probably like less than 10 in my life. 10 it might even be too much, probably more close to like 5. But with reviewing, you kind of have to play new games.
Okay, wait. What about the Humble Bundle? That still counts, doesn't it?
Well, those new? They're not usually new games.
Okay, when you say new, do you mean new to your library, new to you, or new as in recent?
Yes, no, I mean like new, like new releases, like recent
yeah.
games.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. No, I just don't play. Mostly because games are really expensive. So.
Yeah, sometimes I need like I won't mind paying for a game that's 500 rand, but when it gets to 1,000 rand, I tend to stay away until Game of the Year edition comes on 75% sale on Steam, or it comes out on Epic
exactly
for free. Either way.
I mean I bought The Witcher 3 for like $100.
I actually bought all of them. They all came in one package from one all the way through. Yeah.
That's my thing. I'm like, people who be like, oh, I have to play the game when it comes out. I'm like, when it comes out, it's broken. Like, if you just wait a year, it'll work better. Like, you'll have a better experience if you just wait. But if everybody did that, the games industry would crumble. So,
or they would actually release shit that's not broken. It would either crumble, or you would find that releases, they wouldn't have the leeway to, we'll patch that later. People won't buy it, so they're like, it was a flop. And then they would have to realize that people are only going to be buying games that are complete and work. Then
Although there's the other side where you could say if everybody only bought games when they're done, all early access would be dead.
Yeah, early access is a double-edged sword, to be honest. Early access has
Yeah.
the advantages of getting your game out there while still being able to work on it, but it also shares a very negative first impressions, and a lot of people go on first impressions. So early access is good if you're someone that's interested in the idea and the concept and is willing to see it through. But if you're somebody that jumped on, saw it, and was like, nah, this is terrible, that also leaves a long. And also, another problem with early access is that you get public opinion in very early in development, which means that the game that you promise, the game that you had an idea for, might change according to your profit margin. So if you're crowdfunded, or if you are funded by the sales in Steam, the opinions matter, and they might change the course of your game. And it might not be what you intended the game to be. It might actually be an inferior version, because everybody has an opinion, yes, and everybody has a right to their opinion, but it doesn't mean that that the opinion is a good one for that game. One person might want a change in like half the people might get used to the game as it is in early access. So when you finally get it to a stage where it's out of early access, they might not like it because they liked it when it was in early access. So you really lost half your base. You understand? So early access is a super dangerous thing unless you're absolutely confident that when you go into early access, you already have the game. And then the next thing is just to appeal to the community. But then again, in essence, you lack in some areas and you thrive in others. Like I've noticed with, like for instance, Phasmophobia. I loved it when it was in early access. It was really fun and easy to play. Too easy, and we did want a bit more ghosts, a bit more level, a bit more environments, and a bit more difficulty. But it's gotten to this point where it's too difficult to even play on a low level. I don't know if it's just bugged and they're not doing anything about it, or if it's something like it's meant to be that difficult. But certain ghosts that you're supposed to find these identifiers for, this evidence, they don't show the evidence. Like one of these ghosts needs freezing temperatures, and you can scan the whole house multiple times and you won't find freezing temperatures, leading you to believe that there's no freezing temperatures in that house, therefore it's not that ghost. And then you finish the match, or you finish the session, and then it says, no, this was the ghost, you guessed wrong. So that annoys me. And they also added this mechanic where the ghosts move rooms to change things up, but it's not just at the higher end of the difficulty scale, it's throughout. So the ghost just changes rooms. So you go through because the thing is, the longer you spend in the house, the more aggravated the ghost gets. Which means that the first thing you want to do is run around, find the room that the ghost is in, and identify it, and grab all the evidence before it starts killing people. That's the whole goal. But the problem is, if it's moving rooms, your evidence becomes mixed match, and you don't get the right evidence. So things like that, I think, was a focus in the wrong direction, and trying to make the game harder and include more stuff, but not focusing on refining what you already had that made the game so popular. And that's one of those crushing things about early access. They probably went along with a lot of the community advice and added more maps and added more ghosts and added more difficulty, but not thinking about the experience for a new player, because a new player goes in and they don't know what's going on. But the old players are thriving on this because it's more difficult. They really know how the whole game works, so they're fine. You understand what I mean by how it could really fuck up your end result?
Yeah, no, I do. It actually also reminds me of a thing which I remember seeing once with Kickstarter games, where they put a relatively low figure for like their goal, and then they have a bunch of stretch goals. And I remember playing a game. I played like one game that reached all of its stretch goals and was like massively blasphemous. The first game I reviewed, basically like blasted it out. So I think they had quite a lot of time to make the game. And then I played another game that did not reach its stretch goals. And so I remember playing it and thinking, it feels kind of incomplete. And then I looked it up and I found that they didn't finish their stretch goals. They didn't like reach them in terms of funding. So it was like they didn't have enough time to actually make the full game. And I think that's also a problem of sort of modern development of things.
Yeah, exactly. So like something like that, it's also the reason why I haven't yet approached Steam to get early access for my game. I'm only basically going to register my game with Steam when it's at a time where I can release it. Like I'm not planning to to go early access, I'm planning to just release on Steam. So it'll be the game as intended, and the only things that will come after that are maybe some patches. If the game is unstable, because I never know. I cannot say the game will release perfectly. It would be some update patches and DLC content, which it's not DLC, it's more expansions. I'm old school like that. People call it DLC, but to me it's expansions. And so I plan to do that. I don't plan to go into early access because I might just shoot myself in the foot, and I might change the game so much from its original intention that I don't want that. I want to stick to what the team has come up with and what we've agreed upon, as well as like if people want to have input on the game, then we open the channel up to our patrons, because at the end of the day, I'm not going to listen to the full community until the game is released or in a state where we can QA a public audience, but possibly to a point where the patrons have access to QA. No matter what tier of patron you are, you have access to QA and our Discord, where you can interact with us and ask us about stuff. So things like it kind of is putting up a wall between the developers and the public, but at the same time it's also that we can keep the game to its original idea, or try to grow that idea in the best way without manipulating the game so it's just for sales, or just to satisfy the people that come first,
Yeah, no, definitely. I think it is difficult, and because the audience participation is also really complicated, because on one hand you want it, on the other hand you don't, because I think a lot of bad decisions have been made based on what the audience wants rather than giving them something different, it's more like pandering to an audience rather than giving them something new, which is, I think, what every Far Cry game is now, and every Ubisoft game, actually, Assassin's Creed as well. They complain that games are too short. Cool, make it 100 hours long.
Yes, but the problem is that 100 hours isn't 100 hours of content. It's the exact same thing I had with
No, I know.
the only Assassin's Creed I actually played and finished is Black Flag. And that's because I really love the ship mechanic. I didn't actually like the Assassin's Creed game. I hated when I had to get off of my ship. And I especially hated the diving bell little submissions to unlock the legendary stuff. Like, I hated that. I absolutely hated it. And that 100 hours of extra gameplay is literally, they put a marker on a little island that you have to stop. But now you can't stop right next to the island. You have to stop. You have to jump off or swing off, get to the island, and you have to swim back. It's just, that is the worst way to put in extra hours in your games, is busy work. Don't give me busy work. Give me content.
Yeah. But the thing is, there was a whole discourse lately, because a game which I really wanted to review, but I didn't get to, Cult of the Lamb. And so it became like a big thing because somebody complained, some reviewer said, it's too short, it's only 17 hours. And I'm like, 17 hours is not a short game. Have you heard of most AAA games? They'll be 6 hours. So it's and that's probably 17 hours of good content, not 17 hours of padding, which, yeah, I think a lot of gamers, they look at duration as a sign of quality, and you're like, no, it's not. It's really not. It being long isn't actually a good thing. It reminds me of, I was reminded of this recently, where a developer, I can't remember who it was, I can't remember which game it was, but they said this game has 500 hours of content. And then people were like, that seems, I don't think so, I don't know if that's real. And then they ended up being pushed into saying, okay, well, yeah, yes, yeah, there's there's 500 hours.
Walk around everywhere.
if you do everything, all the side things, and also if you redo the game to get the other endings and stuff, the game will actually take you about 20 hours to finish. But there is 500 hours of content.
I hate that.
And you're like, yeah, that's not.
I think hours of content should not include the replay value, the replay hours. You want the game from your first playthrough, from start to finish, 500 hours. That would be fine. But if you're telling me, oh yeah, it's 500 hours if you just replay the game over and over and over again, then I'm gonna say no. That doesn't count as total gameplay time or included, because, for instance, for games like okay, I'll go back to Skyrim. You could make Skyrim 1,000-hour game if you did everything. If you played every possible class combination, you know what I mean? But the fact is, it's not a 1,000-hour game. You've chosen to replay it for 1,000 hours, but it's not something that can captivate you for 1,000 hours. Because whether I start off as a mage, or the stealth archer, or an assassin, no matter what I choose as my start, if I had to do the whole game, I would still, without much requirement, become the archmage, become the head of the companions, blah, 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 blah. You would still reach all those goals in the same amount of time. It just adds on. And that's not 500 hours or 1,000 hours of content. That's just how much time I've put into the game. And that's where I feel that's where they kind of get confused, or they try to stretch that logic.
It also actually, because this is also pointed out where people like to say, oh, replay value, which replay value doesn't really mean anything. If it's a shit game, it doesn't have replay value. Whereas if there's a game that you just really like, so you have played it many times, like, I think the game I've played the most is Jack 3. I know I've finished it over 10 times. That's like a 6-hour game. There aren't choices that you make. It doesn't have traditional, what you see of as replay value. But I have replayed it many times because I like the game. So I think what we see of as replay value is, it doesn't matter if there's multiple endings if the game is shit. It doesn't have replay value. It's shit.
Yeah.
So
no, I get you.
All right, cool. So should we move on to the news, good sir?
Yes, please. I've been looking forward to this bit. Please just
All
tell
right,
me
so,
we're able
I didn't...
to uphold our other names, or is that lost?
Yes, we can. Although it's not specific. So yes, but with caveats. But we do have something really hilarious that happened, so we'll get to that. But the first thing, actually, and this is actually tied to something that you have played recently, because Cyberpunk 2077 has just topped a big sales milestone, 20 million sales. And a lot of the reasoning behind that has been based on the fact that anime just came out. The Cyberpunk anime, which seemed to have boosted
Edge runners
players, where it jumped up quite a bit. Did you watch it?
I actually do have it on my watch list. The thing is, me and dubbing, so I've recently discovered that I could just change it over to Japanese and put the subtitles on Netflix. So yeah, I'm going to watch it. It is on my...
Well, you didn't know that you could do that?
No, I just didn't bother to look. If I wanted to watch an anime, I would watch it online.
Okay.
Not on Netflix.
Okay. Fine. I'll allow it.
You have your Mr. Dub, you have no right.
No, I watch things, I mix and match. The only reason I watch things in dub now is, well, two reasons. One, I'm lazy. Usually because I'm doing something else while I'm watching. And number two, my lovely fiance is not first language English speaker, and she cannot read the subtitles as quickly as they go across. So we would have to pause if we were watching in subtitles. So there are reasons for this, young sir, young Mr. Weeaboo. So anyway, that was Cyberpunk 2077. Actually, seeing as you've has it been like fixed? Because I know it was really broken at launch.
I'm actually glad you asked about that. So I played it last year, and I finished my first playthrough last year, and there were some bugs. There were like annoying things, like the police would would spawn immediately. Like there was no like, you know how in GTA if you piss off the police they gradually ramp up and they gradually come at you. They give you like a brief break to kind of like if you needed to find a way to hide yourself or get away. There's still that brief like yes, if you're 5 stars they hound you, but there is still a break between the onslaught, right?
Yeah.
But Cyberpunk was just like spawning them like crazy. Whenever you like they would just spawn behind you. So when you would fight one, then 3 would pop up behind you, and it was like. It was so oppressive. You could never get away from it unless you were pretty high level and you could leave the area without dying. I haven't experienced that so much, but like, I started new character. I started this time with the Nomad backstory, and I started and when you first meet Jackie, not when you first meet, it's after you meet Jackie Wells, and it goes into the montage. Not to make spoilers, but there's a montage. And if you don't know about the montage just yet, and you haven't played Cyberpunk and you want to, I'm sorry for the spoiler, but there's a montage. And in the beginning, the first scene of the montage, it was in the middle of the city and everybody was T-posing, and I laughed. And I was like, oh, they still haven't fixed this. So yeah, there are some things that are fixed, but there are other things that still have gone under the radar. Well, not under the radar, but they haven't fixed it. So yeah. I played because of the story, and there are parts in the game that are absolutely beautiful, like just the environment and stuff. But I will never say that it's not, that it's not without its flaws. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just gonna say I'm disgusted because I was looking forward to no spoilers. Now there's a montage.
Yeah, so. Man. Like, I'm sorry, but I have to say it. There is a montage, guys.
It's fine. It's fine. You betrayed my trust again, Tristan.
Oh, and another spoiler for you guys is that it's actually set in the future.
Tristan, I was originally gonna make a joke.
It's currently
like because you said the cops
in 55 years in the future from present day recording.
You know, I always think that's dangerous. That is not that far away.
Wasn't it the problem with a lot of the 90s and 80s future movies? It was like the year 2000.
You know, the thing is, like Deus Ex set its first one like 55 years in the future, which is safer. But then, when they redid it, they were like, okay, well, this one's set in like 2027. And it's very futuristic, and I'm like, you know, that was too close. That was like 16 years after your game released. You can't be. That's dangerous. Like, you can't be like.
Yeah, but that's alternate reality. I mean, think about it. Remember with the whole Back to the Future. Back to the Future, everybody was like ramping up. Oh, guys, you know, Back to the Future. They started looking at Nike because Nike had the shoes in Back to the Future, and they looked at the hoverboard, and the corporate side of this tried to ride that wave and come up with a hoverboard, and all they did was give us a plank with wheels. But the wheels are no longer facing the same way as a normal skateboard. It's now facing the other way, and there's only 2 of them, and the thing apparently just fucking explodes. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that rant, but now you know. I would set it. I would make a point to set it in the if it's the near future. I would set it, but then also make it clear that it's an alternate reality, not too alternate from our own.
Yeah. Well, like that. That's why, for instance, you can look at something like Fallout, which the war happened in 2077, but they do specifically say that there was a difference where they didn't discover like microprocessors. That's why everything has like a retro look.
They call that the Great Divergence, where it actually happened in the Cold War, where they ended up splitting, and that's justified because it's within the law, and they make it known that this is not what's going to happen to us, because we all know that if anything, Russia and China might get together, and China might invade Alaska, which might cause the 2 out of the 3 superpowers to go to war and send nukes at each other, right? But unfortunately, I'm going to say it now at the detriment of all our American subscribers, but if COVID has pointed out anything to me, it is that these first world countries aren't ready for shit like that. They don't have vaults. They might have these bunkers and vaults, but they don't have, yeah. And also, there was also a thing where Fallout wasn't just radiation. There's also what the FIV or FLV? FEV, yeah. There was also that was released. So it's not just radiation.
Yeah. Also, I like the thing with radiation because like radiation is everywhere, but they also have this like magic drug that makes radiation poisoning go away. And you're like, yeah, that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Like, everyone would just die.
Yeah, like the thing is, they also have like, okay, there's I'll mention three things that I find hilarious. The first thing is radiation. Is this green misty areas, right? Radiation you can't see because it's literally just electrons breaking off from the atoms and fucking off and hitting other atoms and dislodging their electrons, which then causes the atom to not be complete, causing problems, and therefore, like for instance, in your DNA, if that happens and your DNA is broken because an electron hit it and fucked up the DNA cannot follow its scripting and make that cell, which means you get a cancerous cell because it's a mutation or deformation of a normal cell, and that's why radiation gives you cancer. So it's these little electrons. That's why the Geiger counter goes tick, 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 tick. It's because it's literally recording when these fucking things, these electrons are hitting the Geiger counter. So there's that problem that I've always had, but then, it's a game. The next problem I have is that laser guns have recoil. That's a big problem for me because lasers are light. They shouldn't have recoil. They shouldn't even have sound. They shouldn't be going with recoil. That it doesn't make sense. Plasma, maybe because it's it's actually got mass to it. Gamma, not because they represent gamma as a sound. So maybe sound, yes, but recoil again. Okay, maybe recoil because the speaker used to project the gamma, but there's no speaker on there. But if there was a speaker, the actual diaphragm would have caused the recoil. But the laser gun should not have recoil.
But but reality is never as fun because also if you hear an electric sports car, it doesn't do doesn't do the revving. It just drives.
Yeah. Yeah, no, of course. Like, it drives for a short while and then it goes off the side of a cliff and Richard Hammond goes to hospital. We know this already. The
Obviously.
the third thing I have a problem with the Fallout whole thing, right, is the state of humanity, right? Because I believe there was Africa that was one powerhouse, then there was like China had engulfed Europe, and then there was the Americas. And the thing is, we've only seen the perspective of how America looks, and that's like the staple for everywhere. It's the same problem. Now, this may just be me, but when it comes to the Americans and the way the Fallout world has developed, right? The way that something like power armor is a relic of the past, and yet the Brotherhood of Steel is currently making new power armor, new types. The Enclave had made two types of power armor. There was the Enclave power and then the Tesla power armor, but there was a third one, which was like it was a fire-based power armor. I forgot what it was called, but basically, the law states that power armor was something that was only that was a relic of the past, but yet there is still cases of power. And then you look at at when these power armors came, like you have power armor like the T-45 or something, like basically the power armor is only supposed to be from the past, or if you were like the Enclave that had the resource and technology, you would be able to make it. But because the game needs to add more power armor in because people want more power armor, they do that. Like a lot of these technologies and stuff that are supposed to be lost are easily replicated, and maybe it's just because you're always seen as somebody of a superior intelligence in the game, but I also don't understand how a lot of these settlements and stuff, right, maybe it's just because like for instance Fallout 4 was meant for you to be the person to set up settlements and the Minutemen or whatever take over it, but like these the settlements are supposed to be a lot more autonomous. Like, why would one person need to dictate about food? If there's a shortage of food, plant more food. If there's a shortage of defenses, have somebody to defend. Like, it just feels like, okay, maybe it's because it's single player, it's player dependent, but the world is being stagnated by that fact. Also, the fact that they removed sea life. Like, if anything, the ocean should still be brimming with life, because it doesn't matter the radiation. Maybe the shore is not so much, but the actual ocean should be brimming with life. And you're telling me that nobody has set sail to reestablish connections. I mean, did you ever watch the series Revolution? With the
Yes,
whole
I have.
okay, screw you guys, I'm spoiling it. The way they describe the power being used or not existing is stupid. It's
Yes,
very,
it's
very
fucking stupid.
stupid. And again, how did they solve it? They go to the next nation and the steam power. So yes, the whole thing about what is that they don't have integrated circuitry, and that led them down the path of somehow being better than us and coming up with power armor, blah 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 blah. But because they discovered the nuclear fission before we did. But the main thing is, like, there's so much high tech technology and there's so much low end technology. If I'm making sense, I mean, like, sure, I'm talking about, like, let's look at New Vegas. Sure, we don't know if the ghouls made it to the destination, but they were able to engineer these little rocket pods to blast them through the atmosphere. Surely, like, look at the rockets we have, and look at those little rockets that were launched there. Like, that technology impressive. Also in Fallout New Vegas, that Helios station, that's a fucking impressive piece of technology. And yet, like, I understand that people can't replicate it, but if you look in just at New Vegas, the NCR does have scientists. They're not incompetent. Just that we're on the fringe of their territory. I mean, if you go further into the NCR, obviously things are going to be more developed. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm curious. Did you ever play the first two Fallouts?
I did want to play them. I've actually always wanted to play them. Old school isometric games like that, I have a love and hate relationship with them. I love them. Like, I genuinely enjoy playing them, but I hate that they're old. Like, because a lot of the mechanics are outdated or stuff. But, like, I wish you could take something like that and keep the isometric, keep the essence of the game, and just revamp the mechanics. Like, another one was Arcanum, through Magic and Steamworks. I love that game, but it's just too old for me to really love as much as I did back in the day.
Well, the reason I ask is actually because what you're talking about is actually Bethesda's fuck up. Because in the first game, the Brotherhood of Steel is busy developing new technology. Like, they're not just sitting around, they're actually developing things. And by the time you get to the second game, there are full settlements that are not, like, made out of junk. Like, they're actual settlements, like proper, like, cities with no enemies inside. They're, like, built up properly. It doesn't look like a junk town. And then Bethesda kind of went back to, like, a Mad Max aesthetic rather than developing. Because, of course, like they would be able to keep developing. And that's like the NCR was developing. And then, yeah, like the NCR's capital city in the second game is a fully developed city. Like, it's a big city. So yeah, and it's very, like, it's a clean city. Like, there's no, like, radiation. There's not, like, junk. Everything's made out of, like, brick, and it's properly designed.
Exactly.
All that kind of stuff.
Right there, brick. The fact that nobody is building settlements and they're living out of, like, run down, like the fact that you tell me that this settlement has been here for a while, and I walk in and there's a pile of rubble and dirt laying on the floor. I'm like, why haven't you cleaned this shit up? Why are you guys living in squalor?
Yeah, and that was Bethesda, and then you pretty much like New Vegas, as you said, like New Vegas has actual like technology and stuff, but they are still, because like also New Vegas had a lot of limitations, like they had to use all the like Bethesda assets and stuff, so they couldn't do as many things. But like whenever you go into any of like the casinos, they're all immaculate. Like why wouldn't they be?
Yeah.
You know?
Also,
So
these abandoned vaults. I'm sorry, but if raiders or bandits are the only ones that have a good idea to convert a vault into a base, then humanity has failed. Because if I know if I knew that a vault existed and it was filled with something, right? I would eventually try to occupy it because it might not be a big settlement, but it's a stronghold, you know? I wouldn't just clear it out and then scrap it. I would still use it because it's still heavily fortified. Unless it's something like the one with the fungus in it.
yes.
Then maybe, but like I'm pretty sure we could have just cleared out the Gary Vault and then lived there. So yeah, okay, fine. It is Bethesda's fuck up that world feels so stagnated.
Yeah, it's because literally like you help set up the NCR in the first game, and then the second game is like 70-80 years later, and it's a full city, full civilization. There's no threats in the city. It's an immaculate proper city. It has a functioning democracy. Everything. Well, functioning democracy to a degree. The character who like founded it is still the president, and you met her in the first game, but no one's willing to run against her because she's like a hero.
Okay, yeah.
So that's kind of fashy. But,
hey, if everybody's fine with it.
Yeah, everyone's like, nah, we're not gonna run against Tandy. No, we'll just wait till she dies. Then.
Yeah, it's I'm glad to know that before Bethesda there was actually genuine thought and development put into it. But like the game is just, it is a game, yes, but
I mean, another good point actually that I think goes into this is that there's no bottle caps in the second game. The NCR has taken over. There's NCR currency.
Which actually
like,
annoys me a bit, because
caps.
if you in New Vegas, if you go with NCR money, you can sell it for caps to trade with. If you trade with the NCR, they're still trading with you in caps.
Yeah, no, I know. I think that there were still limitations, and also New Vegas is a shit show. I don't know if you know the story of the development of that
that's
game.
Infamous. That's very infamous. Yeah.
It was like such a. They were just like, yes, make a full Fallout game. You have 18
now
months.
You know Microsoft owns Bethesda and Obsidian, so if Obsidian wants to take a break on the Outer Worlds, maybe.
I would be if they did actually give like Obsidian a Bethesda amount of time to make a Fallout game. Fuck me.
I mean,
imagine
like, Bethesda has Starfield, so. They still got this, like, they've got to run it because they've got Starfield, right? They've also got the Elder Scrolls 6 that comes after they develop the Starfield. Plus, they're also developing. There was something else that they were developing. There was also people are looking forward to. But yeah, they've got Starfield that's coming out. That's their main focus now. Then after Starfield, they'll put their resources into 6. And then there was still something else that Bethesda was up to. I can't think of it now. Come back to me. I might remember. I might not. Actually, don't come back to me. I'm not going to put in that much effort.
Also, actually, another thing about Fallout 2, which is really sad when you play Fallout 2 and then you play the others and you realize they didn't do those. But you can play Fallout 2 without ever killing anyone. Like, you can talk to every single enemy and talk them down instead if you focus on intelligence and charisma builds.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which, yeah, you could talk anyone down. Like, literally at the very first, like, area, there's a character who's, like, there to train you. And he's like, you must fight me to the death. And you're like, but why? And he says, well, because you have to be ready for out there. And you say, I don't think that everything has to be solved with violence. I think sometimes we can just talk it out. I think there's always a peaceful solution. Like, that's an option.
I mean, like,
in a video
I also
game.
got annoyed that this is also Bethesda. I've also got annoyed with that particular thing. It's like, I'm always high charisma because I like being able to tell people, talk my way out of situations or talk my way into situations.
Yeah.
So I prioritize charisma and luck when it comes to like Fallout, right? But the part that always gets me is that sometimes, like even in like Skyrim, right? You piss off some sort of guard or police officer, whatever, like whoever's the law in that area, and they're like they said like something like in Skyrim, if you hit a guard or you do something, he'll tell you to stop and you put away your weapon and then you'll let you go. But I've never experienced that. I've hit them, they go, stop in the name of the law, and then you're like, you put away your weapon and they keep on hitting you. You're like, so how do I stop this? How do I convey to you that it was an accident? Like in Fallout, if I shoot something by accident, it could be I'm busy firing, because I always go for the long distance approach in Fallout. I don't like melee as much, and I don't use VATS. So I like to use real time sniping, and I would shoot, and then fucking what those Diamond City guards would like. There's some super mutants. I hit a Diamond City guard because they ran in my way, but now Diamond City is pissed off at me, and I'm like, but you ran into my bullet. Like, I don't understand how this arrangement is supposed to work if you're the one running in front of me. But if I run in front of you, I don't turn around and get upset at you. You shot me, but I can't do anything. I just think it's laziness and broken and not very well thought out mechanics. That is that.
And the actual saddest thing that was removed from the first two Fallout games, because the first two Fallout games had one of the coolest things ever. If you set your character's intelligence to 1, you can't talk to most people. You get fewer dialogue options. You just shout at people and they're not willing to give you quests or talk to you because you're a weirdo shouting at them and you can hardly talk.
Oh man, that's amazing.
And so yeah, you could just be like an idiot and then you can't get quests. And so you have to play the game just kind of exploring the world, not getting traditional quests, and still figure out how to like defeat the big bad guy and everything, but without any quests. And you can't talk to anyone because you're not stupid. You're too stupid to talk to anyone. Like, that is so cool. But when you put yourself to like 1 intelligence in any of the other Fallout games, nothing happens. It's just, it affects how many skill points you get, basically.
Yeah.
Which is disappointing. But yeah, this has been a long conversation springing from Cyberpunk. So,
fair enough. No, I agree. Maybe we just needed to dump on Bethesda a little bit more. Maybe we weren't quite done yet.
Yeah, fuck Bethesda. Anyway, so the next thing in our tale today is that the first trailer for HBO's adaptation of The Last of Us actually looks pretty good, which I didn't expect, because I don't know, most of the time they fuck up games when they adapt them, but it actually looks pretty good. It's got Pedro Pascal as Joel, and I like Pedro Pascal, even though I cannot think of a single thing he's actually in right now.
He was in that Nick Cage playing Nick Cage. Did you watch that movie? The something struggle of being famous. No. I'll get the name now. It's like a massive weight or something like it. It's a good movie. If you get a chance, I recommend it as a watch. And I don't often recommend these movies as a good watch, but I need to get the name now, otherwise it's gonna drive me crazy. It really was a good watch. Okay, I'm going to just do the Google thing. Did you say Nick?
Oh yeah, he's also the Mandalorian.
Yes, obviously he's the Mandalorian, but he only really yes, he is the Mandalorian. Really good series.
Wait, the unbearable weight of massive talent.
Watch it. It's good. It's good. Um,
I shall.
no, it's good. Um, I do enjoy Pedro Pascal. It's just he's a good actor. That's the thing. He's just a good actor, and yeah, he
Yeah.
blends into it. And then like he's pretty decent. And like you said, he's now getting quite popular.
Yes. No, he looks great as Joel, and then actually also pretty much like a standout actress from Game of Thrones. But she's a child. She's playing as Ellie, and it looks great. It looks really, really great. Which, yeah, not expecting. So that's just cool. It's just hopefully it's good. Um, I think it's definitely something that can be adapted. Some things won't survive adaptation very well, but I think anything by Naughty Dog will kind of survive. Like Uncharted, I heard the Uncharted movie wasn't very good, but I mean, that could have.
It, and I think the problem was okay. Yes, it was. They took the absurdity of game and they pushed the bounds of what can be believable in a movie, right? Which is generally like I appreciate games that appreciate movie or film adaptations that know that their source content is a game, right, and is willing to push those boundaries. The biggest problem might have been casting. Um, Tom Holland is very good at playing Tom Holland in a situation. If that makes sense, he he's just Tom Holland, just in a different environment, and I think that also killed it for me. Also, the whole how they tie it in to the original Uncharted and how everything kind of it does that thing where you know how games you put in effort and you enjoy it through your own effort, but when a movie does it and they just in order to get to that conclusion they make certain things a little bit too easy to get away with, then it doesn't feel like there's it was much of a challenge, which makes it look like it's an easy mode. And the problem with the game and the movie is that a lot of the enjoyment comes from putting in that effort, whereas you don't get that same thing. So if you're going in as a fan of a film or series adaptation of a game that you like, just know that they won't be able to give you that progression satisfaction. They can do things like point out major characters, show you a bit of some of the in-game world, and that's about it. But they still need to ground it in a way that makes sense in a movie pattern, and that is obviously it makes the experience feel too short, too overblown, and if they don't cast it correctly, the characters don't gel. Like yes, obviously Tom Holland plays the younger brother of the main character, right, from the game, but the fact is I just have a problem with Tom Holland in the sense that he's a good actor, but he's good at playing Tom Holland in a situation, not good at playing somebody else.
Yeah, no, I get that. It could have been like a Indiana Jones National Treasure kind of thing.
No, it couldn't have been because it's got Mark Wahlberg in it.
I forgot it had Mark Wahlberg. Was he
Sully? And he is very prominent.
No, that is
very prominent in the movie. It's just Mark Wahlberg.
That is like it's the worst casting. That is not Sully.
Yeah.
Anyway,
they also play. Okay, spoiler. I don't care. They also play on this emotion of will Sully betray? Every action is dependent on will Sully betray, and it's like I get it that you're trying to make it like they try to confuse the audience into believing will he, won't he, and then maybe he will or won't at the end of it, and it's that. But the fact is, they keep on bringing it up. It's not something that lets you sit and stew with it for a bit while you're watching. It's every corner and every pinnacle point. It's will he, won't he, instead of like hinting it and then letting it stew, and then near the end, and then just before the end, hinting it again, and then hitting you with the conclusion instead of like, hey, by the way, in case you only have an attention span of a gnat, we're going to remind you every step of the way that Sully can and cannot betray the main character. That's it. Like, I hate that. I don't need you to hold my hand and bludgeon me over the head with it.
The first game did have that as an angle, but it was very it was like he was gone for a long time and you were not sure whether or not he had betrayed you or not. So it was done really well. It's pretty much the thing that was done best in the first game, which I don't think is a very good game. The second game is good, and the third one, but the first one is not. But yeah, no, that doesn't sound.
Look, still go watch it.
Great.
Still
but
go
Tristan,
watch it. You're good. Just go watch it. Have your own opinion. But my opinion is, yeah.
Oh well, it happens. But Tristan, do you want to hear a tragedy?
Yeah, sure.
I know that neither of us were expecting this, but I'm sorry, but I have to tell you, Google Stadia is shutting down.
But didn't they already shut down? Or am I thinking about something else Google related that they try to do and try to new age, cutting edge technology? And didn't we have a podcast basically on this? Which episode was that where I also went and mocked the fact that they wanted to release a modular phone that I was really interested in, and then they cancelled that idea as well? Wasn't Google Stadia supposed to end last year?
I don't remember, but actually, no, I remember they ramped down a while back where they announced they were ramping down, but they were like, no, don't worry, it's a long-term project, blah, blah, but now, no, it's officially being shut down in January next year.
Next year. But wasn't it? No, man, didn't they like essentially tell all the developers for Stadia just like, okay, bye?
Yes, they stopped developing, but people could still develop for, like, port it to Google Stadia. So now they're actually shutting the service down completely. And I mean, the fact that you don't remember probably indicates they weren't doing very well.
But I thought they had already shut down. I thought this was established. You know, it's like that guy that you really don't like in the group that's like, fine, I'm just gonna leave. And then they leave, and nobody bats an eye. And then like an hour later they come back and like, why didn't anybody miss me? And we're like, oh, you're still here. And they give you like a long sob story about how they were crying alone in the bathroom the whole time. You're like, oh, okay, well, good on you for coming back and telling us that you're leaving again.
Yep. It's good. But anyway, Tristan, it's now time for our other name. Acquisition cost. Now, this isn't an official, like, one-to-one acquisition. Instead, it is more so that acquisitions will be occurring and that they are indicating a possibly big acquisition coming up soon.
Okay, so you're buying us time is essentially what you're saying.
So, the Savvy Games Group. Does that ring a bell?
Savvy Games Group. Nope.
So the Savvy Games Group is also it's also a very forgettable name, which I think is the point, because it's a conglomerate owned by the Saudi Arabian government, and they just buy things up. So they've put aside
Arabic Tencent.
37. Yeah. So they've put, basically, yes. They've put aside $37.8 billion to be used in acquisitions and development in the games industry, including setting aside $13 billion to finance the acquisition of something, which they said is a leading games publisher. So they're being coy, and they're flirting with us. They're like, ooh, what could we be buying for $13 billion? Ooh. But anything that goes over $1 billion is probably a big company.
Okay, yeah, no, fair enough. Like, whatever they're buying, it's probably going to be some... I wouldn't be surprised if it was like some mobile game company that we never heard of that's all of a sudden getting bought up.
That is possible.
Speaking about acquisitions, I know we said that we wanted to keep in more recent news, but I did have a backup acquisition, sort of. Not really acquisition, if we ran out of acquisitions.
Yeah.
And that was Tencent and Sony buying shares in From Software. That happened August.
Yes, I did see
end
that.
of August. So that was like my backup.
Yes.
So we didn't have no acquisitions.
Yeah, that was a big one. So yes, Tencent, there has to always be Tencent, doesn't there? Yeah. They bought up a large stake in From. I don't think they control From yet.
No, they bought up a large bit of shares from them, yeah.
Was it a majority stake?
It's Sony and Tencent purchased shares in From Software.
Yeah. Yes. It's a bit weird.
It says here that
These kind of things.
Tencent owns 16% and Sony owns 14%, whereas the majority is still owned by the Kadokawa Corporation at a healthy 69%.
Another thing with the Savvy Games Group, the Saudi-backed one, is that it also actually has a 10%, well, I think it says like 9%, something like that, percent control of the Embracer Group. So it controls part of another conglomerate. So, yeah. They have a lot of money to throw around, basically. It's a Saudi foreign wealth fund that they use. Yeah. It's probably not great, but, also because they can use their power, much like with companies like Tencent, they can use their power to make people shut up about things and apologize about things. So it's probably not great to have a dictatorship country having shares and control of the video game industry, but
look,
anyway,
I'm gonna be honest with you. There have been some companies that maybe the more and more the corporate stacks and the more and more the conglomerates buy out all of these places, the more and more you're going to see a unified style of gaming again. Like, we were going close, and then the big AAA started to realize that people don't like that, and they started, like, Ubisoft had that year gap, and EA continued to publish stuff even though Disney was breathing down its neck. But they all kind of like shifted out a bit. But this is going to be because my main problem, right, is that things like the like Tencent or the other one, the Arabic one that you said was called the what?
Embracer.
No. The is that what it's called? The thing that's the company that's acquiring all the stuff is basically what I'm trying to say is that
the Savvy Games Group.
That one is. How much knowledge do they have in games and how much knowledge do they have in business? Because if they're just taking this from a business point of view, again, like I said, you're going to have this more unified sense of gaming, and then that's going to end up like the early ages of gaming where it almost died out. And then you're going to have something that is going to break the status quo. But luckily, we have so many indie studios now developing their own games that it's less likely that the industry is going to crash and more likely that the top heavy side of the industry is just going to topple over, leaving a open gap for indies to rise and fill those slots,
Yeah, it would be nice. We'll have to see what happens.
No, that's just kind of my hopes and dreams at that point.
I don't know if you saw this news. This is quite big news. Where the GTA 6 leak.
Yes, and everybody bitched about the game. Like that was funny actually, because it leaked, and then I started seeing people bitching about how the game looks, and I'm like, it's a leak.
Yeah.
It's not them showing you what the game is gonna look like. It's somebody giving you a legal sneak peek, which means that obviously the game is not gonna be it's not gonna be ready. Obviously, it's gonna look like shit. Oh my god.
Yeah, but people don't seem to understand that. People are like, it looks terrible, and you're like, and there's also, I think there's like in some of the videos that were leaked, there's like boxes, like where there's nothing there, because it's placeholders, and people are just like, look at how lazy this is, and you're like,
it's in development, guys. Yeah. Dude.
Yeah. Do you know what the word placeholder means?
Clearly not. Like, I remember a bit of news flicking up about people sending death threats to Respawn, and Respawn posting an official statement saying that they will not tolerate. They appreciate the support and the enthusiasm in their games, but they will not tolerate this behavior from the community. Like, it's again this, I don't know if you are one of those people that send death threats to companies because they haven't released the game that you want to play sooner rather than later. Who are you? Please tell me. Please announce yourself, because I just want to know personally where you are so I can slap you, because you clearly don't understand how these things work, and you're probably an entitled little shit that feels like they can say anything across a keyboard. Just
And I mean, also, they don't seem to have learned from the Cyberpunk 2077 thing, where like games should take their time to come out. They should be good when they release. Don't rush things. Like, if it looks like shit now, that's fine, because GTA doesn't cave to anyone ever. They don't.
Rockstar is one of the very few people that you. Yes, they can fuck up. Yes, they're not impervious to faults. But the fact is, they don't give a shit.
which is great. I like that. They shouldn't give a fuck, but they this I think the game's only supposed to come out in 2024. So you're seeing a game like 18 months early. Of course, it's gonna look like shit. Like, imagine looking at any game when it's like a year out from release. Like, no, it's just. But people are stupid. I think people are used to seeing something like, say, like Call of Duty games, where you'd be like, oh, but they release one a year, and you're like, no, but actually it's not a 1 year development cycle. They alternate studios. It's usually like a 2 to 3 year development cycle. And they just alternate the studios. So, like, one releases 1 year, and then they get their 3 years before that next one. So, yeah, like, games aren't made in 6 months. I don't know why people seem to think they are.
Yeah, I can tell you that straight up. I mean, like, there's it's very it's very hard to sympathize with people like that, because I am on the other side. Like, I understand it doesn't. We both understand it takes long to make a game, and most importantly,
yeah.
If you, I can fully support you in bitching about officially released or approved to release content. Like, if if Rockstar had to go, this is how GTA 6 is gonna look like, and you saw those placeholders, be pissed, people. Be pissed. Message, death threats, go for it. But if you're going to see a sneak peek or a leaked content and bitch about how the state of the game, it wasn't supposed to be shown to you because it's not ready yet. And if you're going to be one of those people that threatens the game staff, then honestly, I think that you don't even deserve to play the game at the end of the day, because you don't know what's going into it. And yes, you go, oh yeah, well, all you have to do is pay a sum and you get your game. But the fact of the matter is, they don't have to take your money. And I would, if it wasn't for these people being almost anonymous in this case, I would also bar them from my game once released, because of the fact that they you know, like, if I could find out, I'll see Lupus sent a threatening email to one of my staff, I will make sure that I'll see Lupus will never touch my game, never get a chance to see it at all. I will make the game specifically online required, so that I can make sure that Halsey Lupus does not play the game. I'll be spiteful, is all I'm saying.
I feel personally attacked at the moment.
No, I'm not personally attacked at all. Mainly because for my game, the most I could, like, it's an indie game, so not even a lot of people are excited for it at the moment. That I know of, because no one has actually said that they're looking forward to seeing the game. They've just kind of existed of like 1 or 2 likes, and then they go, yeah, well, keep it up. So I don't know if there's excitement for my game. I also don't know if my game will be good enough to receive the ultimate achievement of recognition, and is basically if someone would ever crack my game. If someone cracks my game, yes, I'll guys, support the developers, but at the same time, I would also regard that as a bit of an achievement.
No, I agree. When someone's willing to pirate your stuff, you're like, oh, I'm known enough to be pirated.
I'm good enough. I've made it.
But also, in terms of this GTA thing, it seems like somebody has been arrested for the leak. A 17-year-old hacker who's part of some hacker group, but he's pled not guilty. So there's no real news, so we'll
What
see.
do you mean he's
there.
pled not guilty?
But
Like, do they? What was the evidence against them that got them into this position? Was it the IP address? Okay, you might not know about these things.
I don't. It doesn't say, but it just says he's been held on numerous charges. Because he didn't. It wasn't. They didn't just go after Rockstar. They also, who else did they go after? They went after somebody else. Fuck, now I can't remember, and I can't see it here. Oh, they also hacked Uber. So
Okay, Uber as in
I didn't hear about
the South Africa. I know them as the South African quotes. You know, like Hippo, or Uber as in the driving thing.
No, the taxi service,
okay,
the
right.
ride sharing. Yeah. So yeah, which interesting. Also, just in terms of GTA 6, the thing I think is really cool that they're doing is that they're doing like a Bonnie and Clyde style story, which I think is really very interesting. I kind of hope that there's some Natural Born Killers influence.
Yes,
I don't know if
yes,
you've seen
yes,
Natural Born
of course.
Killers, because that would be fun, I think. But I don't know. We'll have to see.
I'm gonna be honest with you. You know, I'm not a GTA enthusiast, but the way they weave the story of 5 caught me. I played it till the end, and it actually okay. There were some times where I felt that the GTA-ness, but there wasn't like a oh my god, this mission is too difficult. Oh my god, I can't do it. It felt, the story felt very nice. There was points that I really wanted to do, like there are many times I wanted to shoot the tennis instructor or the yoga instructor when I was ever at Michael's house. I just wanted to take out my gun, like when when you're just about to walk into an interaction, right? I just wanted to like stay outside the trigger zone and just shoot them. But yeah, no, like obviously I don't give a shit about San Andreas, because yeah, any GTA besides GTA 5, any one that came before that I played, but I didn't feel captivated by it.
Yeah, no, I get it. It is a specific type, but yeah,
And I couldn't keep up with the train, so fuck that game.
When I last replayed it, I did it on the first try.
But you replay it constantly. Like Vice City, I gave up. Vice City, I gave up that stupid fucking helicopter, and I just like dropped like, no, if I can't finish this, I'm not continuing with the game, and I stopped playing. I think I actually got pretty far on GTA 3. I can't remember. I remember.
GTA 3 is
I
aged.
I remember betraying somebody, and then shit went down, and then I remember getting pretty far in GTA 3. Vice City, like I said, I got to the copter thing, and I was like, nah. And then I played around with the cheats, and then afterwards, I was like, okay, well, I'm done here. 4, I started. I remember going on my first date, getting pissed off with how lead based the cars are, or the car controls are, and I just said, "Nah, I'm not playing this game." And I think I got captivated by Saints Row. From 3 to 4, I got stolen away by Saints Row.
Yeah, GTA 4 is an interesting thing, but yeah, it hasn't aged very well.
It's got a very grey palette. That's another thing. Like, even San Andreas was a lot more vibrant in color than 4. 4 is very grey, brown, mix mash, hodgepodge.
Yeah, it was during that time. That was the late 2000s, early 2010s time where everything was grey and brown.
Yeah. I haven't even touched the new Saints Row. I don't have anything against it. It's just that I'm waiting for it to be free. Epic.
Yeah, I haven't heard the best things about the new
I mean,
one.
like, I'm one of those people that if I like a franchise, I'm more likely to play it and then talk shit. Mainly because there has been so many times where I've actually had a good experience on something that everybody has bitched about having a bad experience on. Like, for instance, Cyberpunk. I had a blast. I fucking love playing Cyberpunk. Yes, the game has its flaws, and yes, they fucked up on some things, but I enjoyed the game. So, I don't mind it.
Yeah. No, I still want to play it. I'll get around
No, you
to it at
won't.
some point. But
No, you won't.
I will. When it's
You
like 5
will-
years,
you
when it's like
will
5 years
purchase
old, all
it.
the DLC's out.
You will purchase it. Game of year, whatever, when all the year anniversary, whenever you purchase it, and it's going to sit in your library because you're too busy playing indie games. Because you love indie games.
No, but I already wanted to play Cyberpunk. It was like The Witcher. I bought The Witcher and played it immediately.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, sure.
I will. Wine. Anyway, last news story that we're on is just a bit of like more of a fuck you kind of thing. Not to you, I mean to workers. A worker came forward about their firing from Nintendo, which Nintendo of America specifically. It seemed that they were asking about unionization, and then mysteriously got fired. So
Nintendo.
that's fun to still see.
Nintendo. I mean, like, where do we even put them? You know, if like where do we put them on the game industry scale? I mean, they're not as interesting to talk about. Like if there was controversy in like EA or Ubisoft or Activision Blizzard King, like they're not as interesting because everybody's like, you know, EA when they fuck up, it's everybody talks about it, but like Nintendo does something, you're like, yeah, we talk about it, but man, that's what you get. It's Nintendo. I don't know how to classify it. Like, Nintendo's always, for me, has always had this appearance of just being straight up assholes. So if they do some asshole-like behavior, I'm not surprised. I kind of expect it. Like, I'm waiting. The time is ticking.
Yeah, they're not great. I'm not a big fan of them in general. So, but we don't really interact with Nintendo stuff because they don't do PC at all.
I mean, like, there are emulators. I remember remember what did we have? We had Emu Paradise, and then Nintendo clamped down on all the emulator and ROM content.
Ugh, it's fucking pathetic. But yeah, they do still do
definitely.
that.
And then they refused to put their legacy games on the store.
Yeah, and they also, the other thing which is really a little dicky shithead move, is that they threaten fan games with legal action if they don't cease creation. And fan games aren't sold for money. It's just fans making a fucking game that they're going to release for free. So Nintendo's just a bunch of assholes. I'm like, when you start attacking fans and being like, how dare you make fan art, you piece of shit, I think that's when you've definitely crossed over into like evil territory.
When I think about that, it always comes back to that thing on Twitter where Nintendo tweeted asking their fans to send their favorite moments or like their favorite quotes or whatever. And then when fans responded,
yes.
It just got hit with copyright, and the content got pulled.
I know there's also this big thing where they try to do a thing where they were like, no, we want like let's players to like play the game, and it was Nintendo of America, like the Western side of it, who were like, yes, do it, and then the Japanese division was like, do not post footage of our games. So it was like the American and the Japanese side were very much not communicating well with each other.
I think you know, yes, I understand, you know, you're going to give away content that people would have to purchase to witness, but at the same time you're giving away free advertising. The thing is, it's free advertising, and unlike, say, I could understand something like somebody putting up a playthrough of a very narrative-focused game, like a Telltale game. Sure, because the enjoyment of a Telltale game is experiencing the story, but the enjoyment in a
Nintendo game is not the story. Like, you're not there for the story, you're there for the mechanics. So, like, videos don't capture what it feels like to play a game. So it's kind of a stupid thing to be
and it's not
angry
like the
about.
games have much content to be in awe about. I'm sorry.
I mean, they have a lot of content because they've been making the same game for 30 years. But
No,
I mean,
that goes. Technically, I would say that Mario has the longest. No, has the longest.
I remember having this.
What playtime? What was it? Basically, Mario isn't a whole lot of different games. It's one game switched over a whole lot of different platforms.
Yeah,
it's the Skyrim
pretty
before
much.
Skyrim.
I mean, I remember this was a thing I did years ago where I remember being angry about. Now, I don't care for annualized releases, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, whatever. Although that they're now like moving away from annualized and they're going to like every 2 years or whatever. But people are like, no, one game a year is that, and that's why it's so terrible and everything. And then they always rave about Nintendo. And I remember once just checking how many Mario games there were in 1 year, and there were 11 games that had Mario in it. And I'm like, just for a second, just think. Imagine if Ubisoft released 11 Assassin's Creed games in a fucking year. You'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you releasing some like game every month? Why are you doing this?
Yeah, but at the same time, it's also.
But no, it's Nintendo, so it's fine.
Also, I wouldn't put them equal to the equivalent of Ubisoft releasing Assassin's Creed, 3 Assassin's Creeds in a year, because they still are long games. Whereas
yes, that is very true.
You can't call them the Mario games micro. You can't call them macro, but they are not too long. But they have replay value. Now the thing is, I think I could say the longest games are more like the Legend of Zelda, where it's open world RPG.
Yeah, those ones
like
aren't
that.
just.
But at the same time, yes, they have cool little things in them, and yes, they have all of these different areas and things you can go to and things. But they still what people don't admit is that like the latest Legend of Zelda has a lot of collectible content, and it's infamous for one of the collectibles in the game that you have to grind to collect is a practical joke by the developers. So, yeah, fuck you. You know about that one, obviously.
Yeah, yeah, I do. But yes, good. So that is all the news for today. So, shall we do the wrappings ups?
Let's do this.
Do you want to do your plugs?
Yes. So as I had mentioned earlier at the beginning and somewhere in between, I am developing a game. Its name is called Border Kings. The information for it will be down below, as well as there is a Twitter account for the company, but we'll list that down below as well, because I am dyslexic and I have a growing fear as I speak that I will get a name wrong or spelling wrong while spelling it. So forgive me for that, but I am not going to say that. You can also find me on Twitter at the Lord_Kumquat. That will also be down below. And yes, time to talk a little bit about my game. There will be a upcoming, you know how we at the 2 Cent Report do interviews. So we will also be conducting an interview on this, but to give you a short summary of it, it is a tabletop grand strategy card game where you have a kingdom and you basically have to build up your armies and which is comprised of cards. So you'll have unit cards and officer cards, and these cards will basically populate your army, and you can then take your army and conquer other lands. It is a primarily PvP based game, very similar to your tabletop like Risk, in terms of grand strategy, where we don't show armies and stuff like Civ, where they have groups of people. We don't have that. We're more going with the markers, like your army standard would be the representation of your army. I did say it has a bit of Hearthstone in the regard that each card has stats, and each card's add to the collective of the armor. So you would have unit cards which have a defense and an attack stat that adds into the army. And then when you fight, a game of chance as well as some complicated mechanics, and you are able to build your armies according to the strengths and weaknesses of your opponent as well as your own play style. The bonus of the game is that it is digital, so it's not a physical card game. So we are planning to do a lot of customization. We have a lot of ideas where we want to be able to customize almost everything. Like we have the slogan of make your game as unique as your deck. And by that, you're able to customize your main menu. You should be able to customize your UI, how your cards look. So the frame of the card, you also get different themes for the card. So if you are somebody that prefers a Gothic, like a French Gothic theme, then you would be able to acquire a theme pack where you can not only change the cards and your UI to this French Gothic theme, but you can also go and have the main menu as your throne room where you can change that into the theme, as well as on the map itself you can change the architecture of your structures to that theme. So we're focusing a lot of customization, as well as another point I would like to say is that the only thing that you would be essentially paying money for in this game would be to buy the game, to buy the DLC content, as well as to buy extra in-game currency. Otherwise, alternatively, you can play the game and earn in-game currency where you can buy anything from our store. The store will only be cosmetic, so we're strictly keeping this out of the realm of pay to win. We want it to be a fair experience for all, and just everybody has a good time and being able to represent yourself. So if you are able to customize yourself to the way you would like, the other enemy would see you as such, and basically get the idea of you being the king and making your kingdom your own, making it to your liking, building your armies according to your like, choosing which units you wish to have in your army is a big thing. It is a card game, which means that you are going to unlock more cards and you are going to be able to customize your card decks. There is a limit to how much cards you can have active. There is no limit to how much cards in your deck, but how much cards you have active, which means that you can have unlimited draws. However, you will be limited to what types of cards you can draw from the deck. So that's why I said you're able to customize your armies as well as everything about you. That's all for now. If you would like to know more, there will be a link down to the website as well as our Patreon page. Please, if you can, I would greatly appreciate your contribution. If you just simply find the product interesting and you want to support us, you can support us on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. All of those will be linked down below. And that's it for me. That's my first plug. Hope it was worth the wait.
It was a disgusting plug and I hated it. But yes, it was lovely. Thank you.
Justin, has anybody told you that you're a two-faced bitch?
No, because I'm beautiful. I mean, I'm just so lovely. No, but it's great. I'm glad you finally have a plug. Yeah, my plug is still coming, the big one. So we will see when that, maybe the next podcast. Otherwise, Twitter, LC_Lupus, and then you can also find me on both Noobfeed and Gamescreed, but they'll be on my Twitter, so you could just look there. And then, yeah, any other links will be in the description. You should probably look at my YouTube channel if you so desire, but I've been busy, so it's just my talkie time videos, which I actually really enjoyed doing. And I'm probably going to do more, but I don't think that they get quite as many views as the other ones.
I'm waiting for the next Bible entry.
Bible requires a lot of effort, although actually there might be a thing coming up, maybe. We'll see. I don't want to announce anything yet, so I'm going to say there might be a Bible thing coming up, possibly. But yes, I'll leave some mystery for now. And I think that's everything. If it's a good sir as well. All right. Well then, thank you everybody for joining us, as per the usual, with my well-endowed friend and I. And as per usual, I love you.